Hello, I just finished reading The Old Man and the Sea and I wanted to do just a quick video kind of chatting about it a little bit in spoilers. This is my first time reading this book. It's also my first Hemingway ever, so feel free to add to the discussion in the comments because I'm sure I will have missed a lot. But I'm going to speak about the book assuming that everyone who clicked into this video has read it. So we'll just dive right in. I love Santiago and the little boy's relationship. Right at the beginning of the story, we quickly establish how little Santiago has to live off of and how few provisions he has, yet he continues sailing for the love of it, but also because he feels that this is what he was made to do. This is his personhood, is to set sail to sea and to fish. Other people might have greater works in this world, and that's great for them, but this is him. This is what he does. The unfortunate thing is that he is supposedly very bad luck. Other people are catching fish. He's not. He has these long droughts, and that makes other people assume that he has terrible luck, and so they don't associate with him. Anyone but this little boy. And very early on in the story, we see how bonded they are. The little boy constantly visiting him, and even though he can't work for him anymore, his parents have moved him on to work with someone else because of Santiago's bad luck. But the little boy still returns to Santiago and still has this loyalty to him, even though he can't be loyal to him in the way that he wants. And I think that that really signifies right at the beginning how good Santiago has been to him and how much Manolin looks up to him. And we see throughout the novel how much the boy means to Santiago as well. Even though we haven't seen their story up to this point, so we haven't seen Santiago be so good to him, we see as Santiago is alone at the sea, talking to himself, reflecting on his hero, thinking about the past and the things that move him, his dreams, reflecting on the world and the wonder that he has for the sea and the creatures around him. His thoughts always return back to the boy, not just because battling with this fish at sea for so long on his own is much harder than it would be with a companion. I'm not sure how much the boy could really do in this great battle of strength, but he just wants to share it with the boy. He just keeps circling back to, I wish the boy was here. And sometimes it feels really jarring. Sometimes it feels really abrupt the way his thoughts will be on track about the Merlin over and over, or and this battle and the struggles, the hurdles that he has to overcome in order to bring this Merlin home. And then he just abruptly says, I wish the boy were here. He constantly comes back to wanting the help of the boy, but rather to want to share this experience, this great overcoming that he is currently in the midst of, that he wants to share this experience with the boy. And along with that, we also have Santiago's hero, the one that he looks up to, this baseball player who he really admired, but who also fought through these bone spurs that he lived with, the pain and the hurdles, yet he was resilient, yet he persisted despite the challenges. And Santiago regularly remembers him as a piece of his motivation and is just as a piece of his reflections as he's at sea alone. Santiago, of course, also has to overcome, the odds, overcome this adversity that he's currently in while he's at sea, but also he has to overcome the pain of the fishing wire across his back because he's handling all this alone. So he has to, steady himself in that way, or feeding the fishing wire through his hands with no gloves. And so his hands are being cut through as well. Just the tiredness and the hunger of being at sea all this time, without a partner and without really any, he doesn't know that he's going to make it back to shore. He's not sure how this is all going to end. And there are times where he even reflects on dying or thinks that he could be dead. There was one line where I think he said he knew that he was still alive because he was still in pain, which I think says a lot about his life as a whole as well. But he doesn't know exactly how this is all going to end, and there are times where he starts to kind of let his mind slip into maybe the fish should just kill me, maybe it deserves that, and then he has to kind of snap himself back into, no, I need to overcome the fish. I need to be the one that brings this home. And having someone to look up to, someone else who's overcome great odds and who's had great pain and adversity, I think is a big anchor point for Santiago as he's here alone. And because he's alone at sea, because he doesn't have a companion, Santiago turns returns, as I've said, to himself and does a lot of reflection. And it's through that reflection that we see that his experiences before this have shaped him into this resilience that he has now. He's probably always been somewhat resilient, but he's overcome other battles. He's had other long-standing trials. He's been alone and isolated and rejected, and yet he keeps moving. The fact that no matter what people think of him or say of him, it doesn't matter if he has to go out to sea alone, it doesn't matter if he loses his one companion, it doesn't matter what comes across him, he's going to persist forward. And so when he is in this battle with this huge fish, and he tells the fish, I'll stay with you until I'm dead, because this is the same thing. It's just more of the same, but this time a larger challenge where he says, I'm going to finish this battle one way or another. It's that resilience no matter what that I think makes this story so inspiring, because I do wonder, as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, those that were more profitable, right? Like Santiago had this big drought of not being able to bring in any fish, which then made him isolated because people associated bad luck with him. But those that had plentiful catch, I wonder if they would have battled with this great fish. I wonder if they would have actually stayed with it, or if as it drew them off to sea and it was so strong and the battle was unrelenting, I wonder if they would have just let it go and said, we'll get fish, we'll get a greater harvest, a greater bounty if we let this one go and just continue to fish our normal way. And they would have brought home more fish, they would have had a better profit, they would have filled their stomachs better, but would they have had the prize? Would they have actually had the battle that shapes them and that is the true reward and victory? And I think Santiago, his battle with this fish and actually being able to conquer it, being able to kill it, and though he brought the skeleton of it home because of the attacks that come thereafter, he still had this great battle that was its own incredible experience for him. This battle of wills was something that was really valuable to him. He called the fish his brother. He valued its life, and at times even, like I said before, even thought, well, maybe it deserves to kill me at this point. And when he does actually kill the merlin, and then the blood is in the water, and then the sharks start to come, he's already so exhausted and hungry and drained mentally as well as physically that one would think he might just lay down in the boat and let the sharks have it. There's really very little hope at this point. Once the sharks start coming, they're going to keep coming, and as we see, he starts taking the sharks out, and then more blood is in the water, and then more sharks come. He's so far out from the land at this point, it seems hopeless, and one would think that he would just, surrender at that point. But he doesn't. It's each battle that he overcomes brings a fresh battle to him, but it also seems to make him fight that much harder. I did accomplish defeating the merlin, so I can fight the sharks too. And at that point, he had done so much to get the merlin that he didn't want to just surrender it. He wanted to bring it home. He wanted to be able, even if he couldn't bring the merlin home the way that he wanted, he needed to bring something home. He needed to show, he needed something physical to show that he really did have this battle and he really did win. All throughout this very short novella, he seems to just be kicked and kicked and kicked, and he can't catch a break, but he keeps standing back up, and he keeps fighting, and he keeps spurring himself on and telling himself, no, you can't quit. No, you have to keep moving. Even after he loses his prize, even after the sharks, eat it, and all he has now is a skeleton attached to his skiff, his thinking was, a man can be destroyed, but not defeated. Even then, he knows that he's accomplished something great. And yes, everything that he set out to get has been taken from him. And that's terrible, especially this would have been such a great prize for him financially. It would have cleared his name of bad luck to the people. It would have changed a lot of things for him, but it was him being resilient and him actually defeating the merlin was a victory in and of itself, a self-victory of, look what I can accomplish, look what I can overcome. There was a personal pride in not giving up. But I think we also see a lot about Santiago in the way that he interacts with the ocean and all of the creatures within it. Again, the Merlin itself, he had so much respect for its strength and for its fight as well. I think he sees a lot of himself and his own resilience reflected back in his opponent. But also, if a bird lands on the skiff for a moment, then he wants it to be his companion, or he reflects on, I don't remember what they were, porpoises? You know, the respect that they have for one another, the male letting the female eat first, and even just his love for fishing comes across in the way he talks about the mechanics of it. You can tell Santiago says that he was born for this. This is what he's made for, and you can tell that really is his belief. When he's at sea, it's like he's at home. It's like he has a mutual respect for what he's engaging with. And I wonder if some of that comes from the fact that he, much like these creatures out at sea, is just trying to survive. And even when the Merlin is eaten and his prize is taken, and now his monetary gain that he could have gotten off of it, and the relief that could have come from such a great prize, even as all of that is eaten away, taken from him after this great battle, his sympathy is for the fish. His sympathy is, at least the way I read it, it was a regret that it shouldn't have ended this way. This isn't how you should have been eaten. I think he said something along the lines of, this makes everything wrong, as he watched the sharks devour it. Almost as if the Merlin deserved better than that. And we see it too in the way when he first saw the Merlin, because he battled with it for so long, having not even seen the prize, which I think also there's a lot to say in that he held fast, that he stood his ground, and he wrestled with this beast, and he took the cuts, and he took the exhaustion, and he risked his life, and he didn't even know what it looked like. He wasn't even sure. He just felt its strength, and he knew that this was a battle that he wanted to overcome. And so he battled this unseen foe. He battled yet another obstacle in his life, but he was going to see it through to the end, and he wasn't going to give up. He would persist. And then when he saw his opponent, the thing that could potentially kill him, this thing that was exhausting him and that was causing him injury and pain, when he saw it, it was this majestic beast. In his mind, his perception of it was that of great beauty. So there's this respect for his great opponent, but there's also, I think, the fact that it doesn't matter what he's battling, it's the battle itself that he will overcome. At least that's what I took away from him not seeing it for so long. Maybe I read too much into that. The ending to me is stunning. As Santiago returns home and he's so tired that he can't even carry everything on his own, and he has to take multiple breaks as he's trying to get back, and he passes out. He's so exhausted. And the boy comes and he brings him coffee and he tries to care for him. He cries for him. And again, I reflect back to the other fishermen. If they had caught the marlin, would they have, and they had surrendered. If they had caught it, if they had surrendered because we can catch something else, it's fine, then they wouldn't have been able to witness something so majestic. They wouldn't have been able to experience the great overcoming. They wouldn't have been able to have that respect for themselves that they survived this battle and had this experience with this beast that they respected. It wasn't just a monetary thing, which it was for Santiago as well. It was a monetary thing. He needed to meet his needs. But at the end, he loved and respected that fish so much. And the other fishermen, if the ones that didn't have such bad luck, the ones that didn't constantly get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, if they hadn't endured the battle, then they wouldn't have had the real reward, which was the enduring of the battle. And Santiago, I think, was I think he left still with some satisfaction despite everything going completely wrong. You know, like, you read it almost like a tragedy, but I think that he really had respect for what he went through. He experienced something great in experiencing the marlin. And just the same, the boy, when Santiago returned, he had so much awe for him. He looked at him with such great admiration for overcoming this. And even when Santiago said something along the lines of, "I've been defeated," or "I lost," and the boy said, "He didn't beat you, not the fish." which is the same sentiment that Santiago himself had expressed earlier, that he couldn't be defeated. He could lose, but he couldn't be defeated. And the boy is saying the same thing. He didn't defeat you, not the fish. And I don't know, I think Santiago is the boy's Joe, I don't remember the last name, the baseball player. I think Santiago is his. I think from the beginning we see that, how much he admires Santiago, and, you know, continues to meet with him and have dinner with him and help him with what he can do, even though he's working for someone else. And then here at the end, he goes, I'm gonna sail with you again. We're going to go again. It doesn't matter. We're going to catch fish together. I think Santiago having a figure to look up to as a sign of resilience and continuing to fight is what kept him continuing to fight and what ultimately kept him alive in this great battle. And I think that the boy looks up to Santiago the same, where he sees him and he just admires his resilience, his tenacity, his unwillingness to quit no matter what. And even if it means that he gives up having better profits working for someone else, even if he lives under this bad luck, which I don't think he even believes that Santiago is bad luck. He says, it doesn't matter. I don't care that you don't have supplies. I don't care that you've lost everything in this great battle. I'll help you get it back. I'll help you and we will fish together. I have luck of my own. I've caught fish while you were away. Let's keep going together. So there's that side of it, but then there's also the side that Santiago, I believe, was very good to this boy, and in return, the boy is loyal to him and wants to be good to him too. And so even though Santiago is largely rejected by everyone around him, he has one person who, it doesn't matter what kind of, ideas are passed around about him, he's there, he's loyal, because they have a bond and a relationship that was forged through working together, but also through that kindness that was shown to him. And then we had the tourists at the end where they looked at the carcass or at the skeleton and asked what it was. And the way I took it was that the waiter was attempting to explain the story, but there was a language barrier. And so the waiter said shark, and then the tourist took it as that's a shark, not a shark ate it. So there was a misunderstanding. And then the tourist response was, oh, I didn't know sharks had such pretty tails. And then just like, moving on. And it's crazy to see it ending on someone on the outside who didn't experience the great battle, looking at the trophy of the battle, what could be brought home, misunderstanding the value of it, and also, in the span of 2 breaths, moved on. Oh, acknowledged it, and then I don't care anymore. Now I'm back to talking about other things. I think that also shows a lot of how the battle was for Santiago. The merit and the prize of the battle, what he took home and what he gained of it, was very much for himself. It wasn't for everybody else. It wasn't for the approval and the praise, and it would have been great to have monetary gain off of it, but he didn't. But what he got was for him, and it's something that others won't understand and won't see, but it's something that they also can't take from him. And he did gain, I don't know if he gained approval from the boy or maintained it, but he got his companion back at the end. Anyway, like I said, this was more of a chat. I think I introduced this video as more of a chat, but I just finished it just now, and I just wanted to sit down and chat about it a little bit because again, first Hemingway, but I think it was very meaningful and struck a chord. But like I said, this is my first Hemingway, first time ever reading this, so I'm sure there's a lot more to discuss. So please do chat with me more in the comments. I would love to discuss it more. I'll see you again soon. Bye.